Hey everyone, it's me, Dr. Whimsy. I hope everybody had an amazing holiday season. We're just getting ready for the new year, and I decided to do a video talking about bad budgets or budgeting fails. And I certainly have made some mistakes myself, so I just wanted to go over those today. And these are the 5 most common fails that I have made when I make my budget. And I'm curious if other people have made similar mistakes themselves. So the first budgeting fail is that I have made is to have no budget at all. Early on, when I was younger, I just kind of lived my life, and sometimes I had the rent, sometimes I didn't. And about 3-4 days before the rent was due, I would freak out and say, oh my God, I don't have the rent. Just a general lack of understanding of money, how money works, how to save money. So number one is to have no budget at all, to simply wing it, just live in the moment and worry about the bills when the bills show up. I think that's probably the number one mistake that most people make when it comes to budgeting fails, to have no budget at all. Even if you don't want to stick to a budget, I think it's a good idea to start with a budget so that you at least have some idea when bills are coming in, how much money you make, how much money you owe, just a general budget so that at the very least you have some bearing about what's going on, and then you can choose whether or not you want to stay on that budget. But for me, absolutely, it was that I had no budget at all. Number 2, it was unrealistic expectations. This is something that I see a lot in budgeting channels, where they will put themselves on such a strict budget that it's inevitable that you're going to cheat. You're going to cheat, or you're going to break your budget because the budget expectations are simply too high. So if that's what's happening with you, just be clear that when you do create that budget, to be realistic about the budget. If you're budgeting $20 a month for gas and you're not able to get to work because you only budgeted $20 a month for gas, then obviously it needs to be changed. So number 1 is to have no budget at all, and number 2 is to have unrealistic expectations. Number 3 is to be rigid with your budget. This is very common when we have unexpected bills, which inevitably happen. Inevitably, the car is going to break down. Inevitably, Murphy's going to show up. Inevitably, you're going to forget that December, the bill is due for, you can fill in the blanks. So too much rigidity, and then something happens, something shows up, and you become upset because the entire budget that you've created falls apart because you didn't budget for something. So being too rigid is never a good idea. Be able to go with the flow. Just you've got your basic budget, but understand that life happens and that we forget things. We forget, too much rigidity can actually make you also feel bad about yourself because you're going to make those kinds of mistakes. So try not to be too rigid. The 4th is just poor planning, and that goes into the too much rigidity. If you assume that the budget you had last month is the same budget you're going to have next month, you're going to fail. It's just the way it is, because every month is completely different. Some months are only 28 days, some months are 31 days, some months you're going to have 3 paychecks, some days you're going to have 2 paychecks. So my suggestion is, at the end of the month, when you're doing an account and a reckoning, I do an account and a reckoning at the end of the month. Usually, certainly by the 1st or the 2nd of that month, I've done the previous month. I've seen how well I did, and the purpose of that, reviewing the previous month and doing an account and a reckoning, is to just see where I need to add more money, where I can take money away. Also, right before the 1st of the month, you really want to plan that month's budget. Excuse me. You really want to plan that month's budget. What do you think is going to be coming in for that month? So really take some time and put some effort in. Poor planning is number 4. And number 5 is understand that all budgets fail. It's inevitable that you will fail at your budget. So we put up videos for fun to get people to have a conversation, to watch, to be part of the budgeting community. Budgeting Fails is probably one of the more successful types of videos we put out because everybody fails. Budgets are set up to fail because life happens and life doesn't care about your budget. So remember that when you are looking at the budget, that the rule of thumb is that all budgets fail. The purpose of a budget is to give you a rough idea of what your goals are for that particular month, but we also have to take into consideration that things change, things happen, and sometimes the sinking fund is not going to be enough. You know, those things happen as well. We do our best, we're only human, and failing is going to happen. All right, so those were my top 5 budgeting fails for 2018, and I don't anticipate much will change in 2019, but I would love to hear how people feel about this video. If you'd like to share your budgeting fails, who knows, maybe we can make it a collab. I'd like to see what other people consider to be their top 5 budgeting fails. I want to thank you for watching this video of Broke Aristocrats. Be sure and share, like, subscribe. Tell me what you're doing to take care of yourself without breaking the bank. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye.